What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be doing a application demo and a 2-day wear test on the new Urban Decay powder foundation. This is the Stay Naked Fix powder. Now, I don't know if you guys even realize that I use the Stay Naked liquid foundation pretty much in every single look and every single tutorial since maybe the end of July of this year, but that's the case. It's been my favorite foundation since I got it. I never actually wound up filming a review on that foundation, even though I intended to, because the initial package that Urban Decay sent to me never arrived. I don't know if it got lost or was stolen, but I waited around for it forever and then wound up buying the foundation separately. By the time I wound up getting it myself, it was like long past the time where you guys needed a review. It was like a month later and everyone and their mother had already reviewed it and there was no point. But I must tell you that that foundation has been my absolute favorite. I literally haven't worn another foundation since I got that one, I don't think. So I was pretty stoked to find out that they're extending the line, and I was even more stoked when they said they were sending over my shade, as well as the bronzer, blush, and highlight palette that they came out with in the Stay Naked line. I already filmed a wear test yesterday after my first use of it. I just kind of did some skin check-in throughout my day. I had a very normal day yesterday. I just ran some errands. The weather was decent. Nothing was like inhibiting my makeup at all. So we got a really good like baseline standard wear test out of that. It was also really good baseline standard because I prepped my skin with my normal skincare and primer, but I did skip the pore finishing primer yesterday. I used the Pixi vitamin C serum to prep my skin. I then primed with the e.l.f. Jelly Pop primer that I use all the time. But for the first day of wear testing, I did skip the Milk Makeup Blur Stick because I felt like maybe this was a little bit too much of an unfair advantage because it does hold the oil back so much and fill your pores so much and make everything just a lot smoother and better. So I felt like that may be an unfair advantage. So I did skip this for the first one, but then use it for the second one. I'm going to do the demo. We'll talk about yesterday's wear test and I'll show you examples of that while I apply this round of makeup to my face. I'm going to take you with me throughout the rest of my day. I do have a spin class later at 5, so I will show you what it looks like before that and what it looks like after that so we can see how sweat resistant this is, because there is a sweat resistant claim on this. And then at the end, I will sum everything up and I'll timestamp that part in the description down below in case you want to skip to it. Don't forget to leave a like on this video because it's very helpful to me and I always appreciate it. And if you're new around here and you want to stick around for more videos, you want to talk about makeup, you want to do more fun reviews like this, maybe see some 3 looks videos because I do those quite a bit, go ahead and subscribe because I would love to have you around for all of that stuff and I think that you would enjoy it too. I can't guarantee anything, but you know what? I'm feeling fairly confident about it. Book club information is in the description down below if you have missed that and you're still waiting on it. I think that's everything we need to get out of the way before we actually apply this makeup to my face. So let's just get into it and start applying the new Stay Naked The Fix foundation to my face. And as we do, we will discuss what I thought of it yesterday while I wore it for the first time. So this is what we're going to be testing today. This is the Urban Decay Stay Naked The Fix powder. My shade is 40NN for those wondering. Applying this yesterday, it was pretty much a dead-on color match. This is what the inside looks like. I already used it yesterday, so a lot of the imprint in here was rubbed off, but it did say UD. And then underneath there is a charcoal infused sponge, which they recommend you apply it with. Yesterday when I applied it initially with this sponge, and I found that it gave me a lot of coverage and a really nice finish, except that it seemed to make it sort of sit on top of some of my larger pores. So I grabbed my Nabla foundation buffer brush. It doesn't really matter what brush it is, but any foundation buffer brush should kind of do just about the same thing. And once it was applied, I buffed it in with this, and that gave me a much smoother finish and seemed to blur my pores out really nicely. I did try applying it to part of my face just with this buffer brush, and it looked really nice, but it definitely lost a lot of the coverage. So my method of application today is going to be to pick it up with a sponge, pack it on, and then buff it in with the brush. So I'm picking up about that much on the sponge. I'm just gonna start patting it onto my cheek area. While it is matte, and I did find that the initial application yesterday was very matte, as the day went on, it let a lot of the oils of my skin kind of come through and became more of like a satin finish or a natural finish, which I like. I'm not like a super matte, stay matte all day kind of a person. That's not usually the look I go for, so that worked out really well for me. I'm gonna zoom you guys in before I buff this so you can see what I mean. So like around the larger pores on my nose, if I apply it with just the sponge, it sort of just sits on top of them. But once I buff it in with a buffing brush, it sits really, really flawlessly. For this section over here, I'll show you what it looks like just buffed with the brush. It's definitely not quite as high coverage as when you apply it with the sponge, but the finish looks really good. I'm gonna use the sponge again to show you on my neck how it covers like these little acne scars that I have right here. For a foundation on its own, that's pretty damn good coverage. Usually I use foundation and then go over it with my concealer to cover those. Hopefully, eventually they just go away and I won't have to do that at all. But generally as a base, I'm pretty happy with how this looks on my skin. I am not usually somebody who reaches for a powder foundation, but I am beginning to see the benefits of them a little bit. Like, we'll demonstrate this in just a minute, but I noticed yesterday when I was applying this that my contour and my blush went on really smoothly because it was only sitting on top of a powder rather than something wet like a foundation usually is. So that's definitely one advantage of that. Obviously, if you have oilier skin, then powder foundations probably appeal to you because of that. Personally, I have normal combo skin, so I have a little bit of oiliness through my T-zone, and then the rest of my skin is not quite dry, but it's definitely not oily. And as far as the natural skin matte finish, I don't feel like when I apply it at first that it's so matte that I look dead. Do you know sometimes, like, I don't know, I feel like powders in general, sometimes if they're too matte, they look like very mask-like and lifeless, and I don't feel like I'm getting that effect with this, which is good because that's kind of like what turns me off of powder foundations sometimes. Before we go ahead and apply the contour and blush and highlight from the little contour blush and highlight palette, I'm going to zoom you guys in one more time and let you see how this is sitting on my face up close. Keep in mind this is before applying any concealer. I have nothing on my eyes as a base either, and I have no brows on, so it's just foundation on top of my normal primer. For the first wear test, I found that upon initial application, I thought my skin looked really good. I didn't think anything looked particularly makeup-y, except that maybe around my nose area is definitely heavier coverage than I normally wear in that area. Usually I tend to thin my foundation out around my nose. I just feel like it wears better that way. As soon as I went downstairs and went to leave with Matt to go do a few things for the day, he mentioned that my skin looks really good, and he never really notices my skin. He'll notice my makeup, he'll notice my eye makeup or a new lipstick or something like that, but generally he never really brings up, oh hey, your skin looks really good. And I didn't really explain to him what I was doing before I went downstairs, so that is worth noting. It might be because the coverage was a little higher, so it looks like a little bit more flawless to somebody who's not super into makeup, you know what I mean? But he did notice, and he did think it looked good. After we left the house, we did regular errand things. I didn't go to the gym or anything yesterday. I went to Trader Joe's, went to Target, went to Whole Foods, like that kind of stuff. And I noticed that by the end of the day, this was not so much true anymore. But initially, for like the first 2 or 3 hours, it was holding up to glasses marks on my nose so much better than most foundations do. Once I changed from my sunglasses to my regular glasses, and once some of the oils started to come through a little bit, by the second check-in, which I'll show you guys here, it started to pick up the makeup off my nose. But the first few hours, it definitely held up to my glasses a lot better than a lot of other things do. The second check-in was around 5:45, so that was around 4 hours after initial application, which wound up being about halfway through my day. And by this time, it definitely looked a little bit dewier. I still wouldn't say that it looked like a dewy foundation, but it definitely no longer had a matte finish. Before we get into the second day of wear testing this, I'm going to show you guys the Stay Naked threesome. It has my fingerprints all over it already. With these shiny things, I swear you really can't keep them clean for 2 seconds. This is a bronzer, highlighter, blush combo. I did wear this yesterday as well, so you guys have already seen what it looks like on the skin, but I'm going to apply it and show you guys that way as well. The bronzer, I feel like, is a very good color for me, but it's definitely on the lighter side. So if you're anything but fair, I don't think that this is necessarily going to work for you. I was a little bit concerned because the bronzer has a hint of like luminosity to it. I wouldn't say shimmer because it's very subtle. Usually I don't like bronzers that have any amount of shimmer in them, but this is so subtle that I didn't really feel like it made any difference on the skin, at least not in a negative way. So I was totally okay with that. I don't know that I would use this by itself to contour, but I'm going to use it by itself today. Not necessarily to contour, but I'm not going to add a contour to it just so you guys can see what it truly looks like on the skin on its own. Picking that up on my Sigma large angle contour brush. I'm going to put it on my forehead where the sun would hit, you know, the basic bronzer areas. I don't know why I'm trying to explain this to you guys like you don't know where bronzer goes. I added concealer and powder. I use this Stay Naked concealer, and I also use the Urban Decay Ultimate Brush Off Set and Go powder. I figured that if I use all the Urban Decay base products, they should, in theory, play nicely together. You would think so, right? Like theoretically, shouldn't that be the way things work? I'm gonna grab my little Luxie tapered highlight brush, which I never use for highlight. I'm gonna use it to apply the blush. Now, again, I wore this yesterday. This blush taps some off because this blush packs a punch. The color is not necessarily something that I would usually go for. Usually I go for like more of like a warm peachy orange blush. So I wish that this had like a little bit more of that tone to it. But as far as the actual formula of the blush, I really like it. It goes on very, very smooth. And it has a good amount of pigment. You actually really only need a little bit. When I first applied it yesterday, I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, it's definitely one that you need to be a little bit more cautious with when you're applying it, or you can over apply. That's one of the reasons why I like a smaller brush to apply blush with, personally. You see how over here I went in a couple extra little swipes and I definitely got a little bit more product than I need. I could just go back in and tone it down with that foundation buffer brush. Not a big deal, but you can definitely get a little bit crazy with this blush if you aren't careful. I'm gonna grab my Nabla highlight brush and I'm gonna go into the highlighter strip in here. Now this highlighter is more of like a soft illuminating highlighter than a blinding one for sure. If that is your thing, I think you're going to love this because it does really give a nice sheen and it sits well on the skin. It's also definitely not like a crazy blinding highlight, which I guess is on brand for this collection because it's the Stay Naked collection, so it's supposed to be like the natural skin finish kind of a thing, if that makes sense. What it reminds me of a little bit is the Hourglass highlighters, not the ambient lighting powder, but the highlighters that come in the palettes with the ambient lighting powders sometimes. So as far as how this whole setup looked yesterday by the end of the day, I felt that it held up very, very well, especially considering that I didn't set it with a setting spray and I also didn't use anything in my T-zone as far as primers to stop the oil from coming through. You can definitely see that some of the oils in my skin are coming through and making it look a bit dewier. I can't say that I'm entirely surprised that I'm kind of enjoying a powder foundation because when the Benefit Hello Happy powder foundation came out, I tested that and I actually really liked the way that sat on my skin as well. The major problem I had with that one was, if I recall, I don't think it had quite as much coverage as I would prefer. And the other issue is that their shade range is very, very limited. And I felt that the undertone was not quite right for me, which is not the case here at all. I feel like 40NN is like a really dead on match. Just finish off the rest of my face with like the simplest makeup ever because I am going to the gym later, which we are going to wear test this through my spin session today. It says here on the back of the carton that it's water resistant and sweat resistant, so we're gonna see how sweat resistant it is. I don't really think that too many foundations hold up well through a spin class, especially because I tend to go really hard at spin class and do like 18 miles and like sweat my balls off. But I mean, whatever. It's fun to test these things and it's fun to see how these things go. Is it the most practical application of a foundation? No. Does everybody wear makeup to the gym? No. Do some people wind up wearing foundation to the gym sometimes because that's just how their day goes? Yeah. So like, I don't know, it could be useful to some people, I think. Before we go and do that, I'm going to zoom in real close one more time before I go and mar this foundation, this base in any way. Also, I'm gonna put a hat on because my hair looks disgusting today. It's really bad. Now, I don't know what I'm gonna think when I look at this on camera because HD reveals all, but right now, sitting here looking in the mirror, I think my skin looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the finish of it. I'm very happy with the coverage of it. I don't feel like it looks heavy or cakey. But I do still think that it's sitting a little bit on top of the pores on my nose, and going forward, if and when I use this foundation again, I am definitely going to go straight in with the brush in my nose area instead of using the sponge. I can't pick up my phone right now because I'm using it as my monitor, but it is currently 11:44 a.m. I'm going to check in with you guys in a few hours before I go to the gym, and then we'll do one final check-in this evening after I go to the gym. All right, it's currently 4:32 p.m. I have to change and get ready to go to the gym. And by change, I mean just put on a different sweatshirt and tie up my hair, but still, a bitch has things to do. So I just popped on here on my main camera because I don't have natural light in the other room to get a shot on my point and shoot anyway. Right now, just at first glance, I do have some glasses marks around my nose. Everything else is sitting pretty well. It looks like I still have some good coverage. I guarantee you when I peel my hat back, I probably lost some coverage on, actually, that's not so bad. I'm gonna leave this rolled back for a second. I'll look like Colin Farrell, but it's totally fine. There's some marks from like the ribs of my hat, but for the most part, the makeup actually is still sitting on my forehead. So this is what it's looking like after a few hours of wear. This is kind of like the way I prefer it. A little bit worn in. I feel like it looks like the most natural. Again, I have some glasses marks on my nose, but I wear glasses. What are you gonna do? I feel almost like after a couple of hours of wearing it, it looks like a liquid foundation. I have like a phantom hair sitting on the side. There it is. Get out of here, you. It's a dog hair. It's always a dog hair. All right, anyways, I'm gonna go change and head to the gym, and I will show you guys what it looks like when I come back. 6:17, I just got home from spin class. I could see already just looking in the mirror, I lost some coverage here, I lost some here. I have like a stripey over here, but the rest of my face actually seems like it has quite a bit of foundation left on it. I would not go ahead and say that this foundation is going to last you through a very vigorous exercise class where you sweat a lot, but all things considered, I definitely think this could look worse. I'll zoom you in just a second so you can see a little bit better. See what I mean over here? Most of my bronzer and my blush are gone right there. You could like see where it trickled down my face. I must have been like pouring sweat down like a waterfall. Ew. It doesn't look fantastic, but it definitely could also look worse. On a whole, I think as far as powder foundations are concerned, this is one of the ones that I like more out of the bunch. I wasn't crazy about the Kat Von D one. The Benefit one, I liked the finish, but I didn't like the undertone. And I think there was a Makeup Forever one that I tried before too, and I wasn't crazy about that either. So as far as powder foundations are concerned, this is one of the better ones that I've tried for sure. Like I could actually see myself picking this one up and using it by choice. Now, I don't think by any stretch of the imagination that this is going to replace the Naked Skin liquid foundation for me. But for a situation where I was going to be in a warm climate and I wanted something that was going to absorb oil a little bit better, or if I was traveling and I wanted to take a carry-on and I didn't want to put a liquid foundation in my carry-on bag, I could definitely see myself using this because I did like the way it looked enough to wear it again, even though it might not be my day-to-day foundation. Personally, I find the application of a liquid a little bit easier. Like I feel like I just do it faster. I don't know if it's because I'm used to doing it for so long, but I don't know. I just feel like I put a liquid foundation on so much faster than a powder for some reason. I am going to freshen up and take a shower because I feel absolutely atrocious right now. There's honestly nothing grosser than leaving the gym and having to put on like a heavy sweatshirt because you're cold, but like being sweaty inside the heavy sweatshirt. I want to die a little bit right now. So let's rewind back in time to when it was a little bit fresher and less sweaty, and I'll give you my thoughts on the packaging, a couple other things, and I'll wrap this bad boy up. All right guys, that sums up our wear test. I hope you found it helpful. I hope you found it useful. As far as the packaging is concerned, I think the packaging on these are absolutely beautiful. beautiful. They're very classy. They have that little bit of Urban Decay edge to them, but they're still very, like, I don't know, I think they feel very grown and very luxurious as well, which I really enjoy. It goes along very well with the packaging for the liquid foundation and for the concealer. The only thing that I don't like about the packaging, and this goes for any metallic packaging in the world, is that it easily gets fingerprints on it. Luckily, it's just as easily wiped clean, but the fingerprints, they come so fast on these metallic packagings. But the packaging does look really beautiful. As far as the charcoal infused sponge, I don't know if the charcoal does anything for the application at all except make the sponge gray, and it looks kind of cool. But the actual texture of the sponge and the flatness of it, it's something I haven't really used anything like in a long time. And I think I actually like it for the application of a powder foundation like this. Like I said, I definitely think that for me, this works best when applied in conjunction with a brush. But I like that this is flat because I feel like it gives me like more control over where I'm putting my foundation. And also I like that I don't have to wet it before I use it. The bronzer highlight blush trio I think is really well formulated. I like that the highlight's a little bit more subtle because I like to have those types of highlights in my collection too. If you're looking for a blinding highlight, I don't think that you're going to love this, but if you're looking for like a day-to-day highlight or even just a highlight to put on as a base under a more blinding highlight that you put on like the very high points of your cheeks, which by the way is something I like to do sometimes and I think it looks absolutely stunning, then I think that you're going to like this a lot. The bronzer, like I said, does have a little bit of luminosity to it, but it doesn't look like a shimmer on your face. It kind of just looks a little bit more awake and not matte. I don't necessarily think it's a color that's going to work for a ton of people, but the shade does seem to work on me. So if you're a similar skin tone to mine, I think it would be a nice color for you. And the blush, the formula on this blush is beautiful. It's very pigmented. It blends very easily. I really like the way it sits on the skin. The color is a little bit too pink for me for what I usually reach for day to day. That doesn't mean that I won't use it with certain looks because sometimes there are certain things where I can't pair a peachy blush with them. It just doesn't look right. In which case I'll probably reach for this because I really do like the way it applied. I wish that they had this exact quad with a more peachy color in this formula though. I think it would be amazing. Overall, I can't say that I will be switching from my liquid Urban Decay Stay Naked foundation to this, but I do see the benefits of this for sure. And I think that if you're somebody who loves powder foundation, that you'll probably like this a lot. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know, do you plan on trying this? Are you a fan of powder foundations in general? What are your thoughts on the matter? I would love to hear it. Please don't forget to leave a like on this video because it's very helpful to me. And if you enjoyed it in any way, I would love to know that. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already because I will love more than anything to have you around for future videos going forward. And if you want to keep up with me between these videos, if you want to just know what goes on behind the scenes or see my other work, see my other makeup, see my lip art, all of that stuff, and PR boxes that are coming down the line that we may wind up reviewing here on this channel, go ahead and follow me on Instagram. I'm at Miss Quinface over there, and I would love to have you part of that little crowd as well. That's definitely the place where it's easiest for me to keep in touch with you guys on a daily basis too, because a lot of times you guys respond to my Instagram stories and it's pretty easy for me to organize that and be able to get back to you guys, where sometimes the comments on YouTube get a little bit lost because their system is not the best. So please come follow me over there. I would love to have you. I think that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I probably will not see you guys again on here until after the holidays. So if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I hope you have a wonderful time, whatever it is that you are doing this week. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and talking makeup today. I appreciate you always, and I will see you in the next one.